Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 5 of A Place Further Than the Universe. And our 4 little caterpillars started a training exercise, a training mission, if you will, last week. And so they got to go to these beautiful elevated location out in the middle of the woods. They got these beautiful views from the top of a mountain. It was great. And they got to do some character bonding and development and start training to get ready for their inevitable trip to Antarctica. So there's that. Now, we're only on episode 5, but I'm assuming I can't decide if they're just going to show us like a montage of them training this week, and then we get to like the preparation to leave for Antarctica, or if we're going to do a time skip, or if we're just going to be there. I don't know, because we only have 13 episodes to work with. We're already on episode 5. Obviously, we need to have time at Antarctica if we're going there. So, and I think we are. So I'm going to be curious when we get this episode. Right? Should be interesting. But yeah. So I have a couple comments to talk about before we begin. Shimoyama had talked about with episode 3, the scene with Hinata and Shirase in the house where they were meeting Yuzuki, saying that I noticed the giant bear is there. Why are you sitting on the mirror? In traditional Japanese houses, mirrors are magical, so they hide mirrors when they're not in use. I think that's really cool because coming from an American perspective, at least from my family's culture, is like, which is just Euromut. But yeah, we never hide mirrors. Mirrors are everywhere. There's mirrors in the bathrooms, and some people have mirrors in their house. So the idea that since they're magical, you hide them when you don't use them is so interesting. So that explains why the giant bear is just on top of the mirror. I think that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that idea of hiding mirrors when you're not using them. That's a pretty cool thing. So thank you, Shimoyama, for explaining that. And then Kumire said for episode 4, I love the way they describe their personalities in the tent. You have the sensibility of Kimari, the maturity of Hinata, the purity of Yuzuki, again showing the balance that's just perfect to support Shirase. Because yeah, Shirase Kimari is kind of our main character who we follow along, but Shirase is kind of the focal point of the story because we're going after her mom to find her in the Antarctic. So yeah, it's good that she has a support system, and I like Kimari, Hinata, and Yuzuki and how different they are, but how they each kind of fulfill this role in supporting her, which I think is pretty important. So yeah. That's pretty cool. So thank you all so much for the comments and the support. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, I want to give a special shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, especially since we have a new patron that helps to support the channel. I'm so thankful for everybody on Patreon. No matter what tier you all support, all of that helps me, and I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for donating your time and money, watching my series, and supporting me. But the philanthropy tier, they get a shout out in videos each week. So Alex Cornejo, Anime Annie, Bryant Reed, Be Happy, Dana, Damage3245, Danger Zone, Destiny Marie, Devorin, as well as Alexandra Q, Eric, Ichu, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Liam Polzel, Linden, Adam Perez, Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, Nicholas, Nago, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Trails, Translucent Men, Alexandra Q, Adam Perez, as well as El Cuno, and then Starman AA and Bisa. Thank you so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I'm excited to get started with this episode and see what all we get, but we're just going to dive right in and just go for it. So we're going to start episode 5 of A Place Further Than the Universe, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's dive in. I was not ready for this episode to smack me in the face like it did. Oh my gosh. Wow. So yeah, I'll be honest. I try not to buy in too much to the hype when people are like, this is the most amazing show ever, because I have very high standards, and things are like, when you say it's your favorite show or it's the best, that's very subjective. And so I've really enjoyed this show so far, and I was like, okay, it's really good. I mean, I'm not getting the best show ever hype, but this episode made me go, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. It's really good. This episode was great. The whole confrontation with Megu-chan was so good and so complicated. And it's just, there's a lot to talk about it. And Whiteboard Coon's going to have to help me. So we're going to bring Whiteboard Coon a little closer for a little more intimate interaction with all of us. But yeah. Okay. This episode was a really, really good episode before we're like because there's 13 episodes in this season. So next week is not even the halfway point, but this is a really good setup to get to that. And this episode did a lot of things I wasn't expecting. One, it being focused on Megumi, who if you guys have been on Discord, I've been kind of like showing images of her, but they've been doing a good job of just slowly letting it build. And then they did the dam break, which was the symbolism of it just finally overflowing. And Kimari's kind of into that. So, okay. But yeah, I wanted to go through this episode and talk about all the different things that were so good in it. With the first being that Shirase and Kimari going in front of the entire class and saying, yep, we are going to Antarctica. My favorite part of Shirase just going, I'm going. Like, that there was like a mic drop, like, oh, hey, bitches, remember how you've been making fun of me the last how many years saying I'm not going to do it? Guess what? I'm going. That was like just, that's all you had to say. It was just perfect. That is like, just stick it in, drag that knife through. I love it. I love it so much. And I love their little fist bump to each other as they go through it. That was great. So then we have with Megu, who is sitting there watching from a distance. And we see her there. And we see the dam breaking with her as a kid. And Megu's like, you shouldn't have waited so long. And she's like, but. And she's like, I get it. It had made me happy. And then they build it back up and she gets more water. And then she just lets it out. Yeah. And it's funny how she's happy there. She's like, oh, you're very smart, Megumi-chan. I felt like I'd become a big sister to Mari-chan. She's like, we could play together tomorrow too. Okay, so then us getting to the OP. I love the idea that this entire episode just represented like everything pooling up and it being stagnant and that kind of freedom that comes from when it all gets released. Which, knowing that, it's kind of like it makes more sense now why Kimari was so eager to find someone like Shirase, because she had felt things were like stagnant and pooling for so long. And then the moment Shirase came in kind of this whirlwind to bring this new opportunity to her, it makes more sense now why Kimari was so eager to jump aboard and doing it. And kind of goes back to last episode when the one, the head, the president, kind of says, you have the personality for Antarctica. You can handle it when things get crazy like this. And Kimari's like, yeah, Kimari kind of thrives on it, which it's so funny how people who seem like they're so quiet and kind of timid, once they get into their element, they can really open up. And Kimari is like a prime example of this. But so we have Megumi and Megu-chan. Her whole thing was she's somebody that likes being relied upon. She likes being relied upon. And she has thought that Kimari is that person to do that for her. So, and it's the tried and true tale as old as time, where it's like if Megu-chan had opened up from the start and been supportive of Kimari wanting to go to Antarctica, she probably would have been invited. She probably could have joined in on this. Like, if she had been on board with Shirase and Kimari from the start, she could have gotten the chance to go too. But that's not the kind of person that she is. She's not the kind of person that jumps on stuff like that. She likes having others rely upon her. And there are people in real life like that I know that are like that very much. And this kind of, the attitude she has, it is very similar to that. And so when it all started coming out in the wash, I was like, aha. I really love the title card of Megu-chan for this episode, Dear My Friend, where it shows Kimari trying to hand her something and she's just looking away and the camera's back. So we're going to talk about the 100 kilograms altogether. Girls' tea and the madness. The madness of Shirase. I love it. But yeah, the girls, the tea. The tea was spilt this episode for sure. And I'm going to have to look up what 100 kilograms to pounds is. 220. Okay. So then when she says if she's 42, 92 pounds. I was 92 pounds when I was in 3rd grade. Y'all so tiny. I was like 92 pounds when I was like 8 years old. I'm a big girl though. I'm not, I'm like 5'8", so I've got some height on me. So there's that. But if they had 50, let's say if they had even 50, 100 pounds, that, you know what? It's funny because 100 pounds, let's say they had 50 kilograms to mess with, 50 kilograms to mess with on this trip. That's not a lot when you're going to 3 months worth because you have 100 pounds. I guess, though, it's kind of like when they weigh luggage at the airport in the U.S., certain airlines like restrict it to a 50-pound bag and your suitcase weighs so much. So that adds a little bit. But so you can definitely, you have to be creative with what you pack. It's not the clothes that create all the weight. It's like if you add books, if you add like any supplies, if you add, it's all the stuff that's not clothing that adds the extra weight, right? All of those extra little trinkets. So you kind of have to be, and I like the fact that they said that there is a way to do laundry there. So you could get by with, 2 weeks worth of clothes and then you could probably just wash them, right? And then, of course, but the gear that you're packing, like your coats and everything, your socks and stuff, that all adds up. So 100 pounds in boxes probably doesn't seem like a lot, but in the long run, it probably would kind of be. So yeah, interesting. Man. And then, as she hands her the spoon and starts putting the sugar in, that's when Megu stops her. Okay. So yes, they have the new Antarctic icebreaker ship that's modified from the Shirase 2, the Penguin Manju. I love it. But there's been some internal modifications. As you can see, it's had a big external makeover. Yuzuki is really great. I personally love the concept that Yuzuki is a character. She's an influencer and she's so good on the camera. She's so easy to talk to and she's easy to converse with. But then she's kind of introverted. Like when they showed her the picture of the karaoke and she's like, oh, thank God I didn't go. I felt bad at first because I was like, man, Yuzuki isn't there. She would love to be there. And then the moment Yuzuki was like, oh, I hate that. I'm like, okay, I don't feel bad now. She wouldn't have wanted to go. That's fair. But I adore that they cover how her personality in real life is very different from the persona that she puts on as an influencer. Whereas Shirase is timid and kind of socially awkward in both real life and on camera, but she gets so fiery and emotional that it's weird almost to see her be kind of shy. And then the little jump, that was really cute. And then Kimari is Kimari is like, let's just go. Let's effing go. And I love it. I love that this series does such a good job with the realism of their personalities. So they gotta go to Australia. I guess Australia and Japan aren't that far away, right? What is the distance by plane to Australia from Japan? Okay, so it's 6,800 kilometers, but okay, so the flight is typically 9 to 10 hours. That's still a pretty long flight. It always seems like I've watched Free Iwatobi Swim Club, and in that series, they take a trip to Sydney and stuff, and it just feels like it's a little hop, skip, and jump away, but 10 hours is still a pretty long flight. But yeah, I guess in comparison to other places, it doesn't seem as long. But yeah, she's like, and Yuzuki, it fascinates me because when they're like, you look like a pro, she's like, oh, don't make fun of me. They're like, we're not. We respect you for what you're doing. I like that Yuzuki is kind of tainted from her previous friendships to where it takes her a little bit to realize that they're not joking around. They're legit praising her for being good at it. Hinata, we're going to talk about Hinata in this. She's great. So I just love Shirase just freaking out over there about Australia already. Bless her heart. I like Yuzuki as a sense of calm as well. Shirase, She seemed so confident at the start of this series because she had this dream and ambition. But then as she gets around these other girls, Shirase seems more and more kind of emotionally unstable, which I'm sure will have more impact when we get to Antarctica. But I like this development as we've gone so far in these first 5 episodes of Shirase starting out as this confident go-getter, I'm going to do it no matter what. And now that she's around others and she's getting closer to her goal, the nerves are setting in and she's being more emotional, which is a natural reaction. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, so they get her to calm down. And then they talked about the vocal warm-ups. Yes, have you been doing your vocal warm-ups? So there are vocal warm-ups that you can do in speech. I coach a speech team, so we always have warm-ups, and it's like to get your mouth to move and like stretch out your expression so that it's easier to talk, because some people get mush-mouthed because they don't move their mouths very much. So she says she sells seashells. She says she sells seashells on the seafloor, but that's not the one we do. We do she sells seashells by the seashore. And then Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. I had 2 students this year on the team that hated that one. They're like, we don't like the Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. And I was like, well, that's what we're doing. So yeah, she sells seashells by the seashore. And then I like to use the ones from Anchorman. It's like, how now, brown cow, and the Human Torch was denied a bank loan. But those are great. I was like, yes, get them vocal warm-ups in there. I even love when Shirase's like, but why would you sell seashells by the seashore? And I love that Yuzuki's like, don't try to dissect it. Don't try to make logic with it. It's just alliteration. You can't do that. It was great. I loved that. So yeah, when she's hostile, when someone she's hostile to is around, it's like, screw you, and the switch gets flipped on. And then she's like, are you talking about me? Yeah, girl is intense. She gives off a Rey vibe from Sailor Moon. I definitely get a Rey vibe from Sailor Moon, like Sailor Mars from Shirase. I definitely get that vibe. I don't know. I wouldn't compare Kimari to Serena, though. She's definitely a little bit more outgoing than Serena. But yeah, they're like, are we really getting on this thing? I get horribly seasick. So the last time I was on a boat was, we went on like a little, like 2-hour long sort of, it was in Chicago, like on one of the Great Lakes. And it was like, well, you just take a little boat tour and you have like a little dinner, and it seemed like really cute. I was sick as a dog on that dang boat. I was like, bleh. So if I don't take Dramamine or some kind of seasick medicine, I'm just the worst. I think my family tried to go on a fishing trip in Florida one time, and I had to sit by the captain of the boat and threw up the entire time, and he was like, girl. So yeah, not for me. But yeah, there's a lot to think about. This episode, as I'm recording this, I'm getting ready to go to an anime convention with my brother, and I'm planning to do a video of it when I get back and tell you all how it goes. But this whole episode just made me so just hyper aware of the process of packing and getting ready for a trip, because it's like, when you fly, you have to get certain things like that are TSA approved, that are travel size, and then you have to, like, when you plan to go in a vehicle, you're like, okay, what do I have room for? What can I bring? What if I forget something? And then there's just so much preparation to travel, even if it's like a weekend trip, or even if it's like just somewhere for a day, that you kind of can get caught up in it and lost. And there's also a feeling of preparation. Like, we'll get to it about the day that she leaves and the vibes from that moment. But them just talking about the preparation. I'm going on a trip the first week of June, and my friends and I have been talking about like getting things prepared and getting things lined up, because we're flying and it's a lot to get ready for. And so it's so much fun to prepare for a trip, but there's so much that goes into it. And they're staying for 3 months. When I went to nationals, my team, we were there for 8 days, and I felt like we were there for 3 months. So I cannot imagine getting ready for that. And then she's like, once we arrive, it'll be like living life like normal. Like, you just get into a routine. There's lots of work to do, and it'll pass by quickly. Yeah, it always, once you're there and doing stuff, the time goes by so quickly. But the preparation and leading up to it, it feels like you're planning for something that's super long. Mm-hmm. So then they talk about the 100 kilograms. And then I like Shirase and Hinata question like her actual weight, which I'm like, girls, don't body shame or weight shame. I feel like I don't know, I feel like men go through this as well, but there is like a culture of like just weight phobia and everything. And growing up, I remember seeing like certain weights and going, oh, I am nothing near that. And I don't consider myself, obese or anything, but I'm not like, I am definitely not like 130 pounds or anything like that. So it's always been weird to me. Like, I eventually just have to let go of the number as far as weight goes. And muscle weighs more than fat, so you have to keep that in mind. Of course, Japan has these adorable boxes with penguins and seals on them. They're super cute. And weighing everything, so saying like 70 kilometers and... Okay, so 70 kilograms, not kilometers. So she's weighing everything and it's 20 kilograms over. I love the mom coming in and the room is just trashed. There's manga everywhere. There's Band-Aids. There's a box cutter, so she's probably cut herself on it. There's like just stuff everywhere. And we've established Kimari is not a neat person, so her room is automatically like cluttered anyway. And then the sister's like, this is not good. That was great. I loved that. I love the sister just being like, you gotta get this. She's like, you don't need to bring a pot because the pot itself is gonna weigh like 10 kilograms of your 100. Like a tenth of your weight doesn't need to be this non-stick pan. You don't need it. They'll have cooking equipment there for you to eat. And then she has like the English to Japanese dictionary, a peeler, a conversational English for travel. I'm assuming, and then Chinese. I'm assuming to talk with the people that are going to be there that are speaking different languages. But her sister brings up a good point saying like, there's going to be tons of people who can speak foreign languages there. Like you can find a translator. It's not going to be, end of the world. But yeah, it looks like she packs in the boxes like clothing and things packed up. She brings her penguin. There's a hair dryer, like just enough. She's like, I should probably consult with Shirase to make sure if I need some specific things. I'll be gone for over 3 months. Which is crazy. I mean, for a high schooler, it's kind of like study abroad, essentially. But I can't imagine studying abroad in high school. I personally don't think I was mature enough to have handled study abroad as a high schooler. I don't know if I can handle study abroad now. I probably could. But I feel like for a high school student, that's a huge leap. And that's such a big step. So that's really cool. And then when she talks about, the pamphlets didn't exactly tell us how to pack. And they're like, it's an adult thing. You need to be responsible. Adulting is hard, huh? Yes, adulting is hard. And there's things that they don't tell you when you're younger that adulting will include that you're like, wait, we didn't go over this. So I love that about this episode. I love that it touches on something that your audience watching is going to be like, yes, I can instantly relate to the concept of adulting and all of that. But yeah, and then she finds the pony station instead of the PlayStation and the Pin Winter. Which my brother and I grew up on PlayStations. My grandmother had an old school Nintendo, like the original Nintendo. My grandmother had that because my aunt was raised in the 90s and that was her, or in the 80s and that was hers. And then my brother and I had PlayStations, and we had a PlayStation 2 when it came out, and that was the two things. Because the PlayStation 2 you could play movies on, so it was like we convinced my parents were like, oh, it's like a DVD player and a gaming station, and they were like, okay, 2 for 1. But my friend in high school and in grade school, she had an N64, and so we played N64 a lot. But yeah, so then she brings it back to Megu's house. Now, her loaning the PlayStation, the Pony Station, to Kimari and then forgetting about it lines up with her character because she wants to be relied upon. So she wants to loan it out. And don't worry, you don't have to bring it back. You can keep it as long as you want because that means that you owe it back to me. So that goes with that mindset, with that personality, right? She's like, oh, you're bringing back. And she's like, here you go. It's the game that you thought I'd lost. And she's like, we should test it out. And she stays there to play with it. It's been 3 years. It might not even work. And then, of course, it does. Those old PlayStations, they'll fire right back up. Don't you worry. And she's like, look, here, we're playing this. She's like, you sure loved this thing, didn't you? And she's like, well, it's the only game I ever beat you at. See? You couldn't beat me at all. My dogs are being silly, so you'll have to excuse them barking. You said you'd lend it to me as long as I wanted. So yeah, and then we have the characters, and the one with the glasses is the one that's shown to lose, so... And we see them as a kid, yeah, when they're younger. Super cute. And she's like, how are things going in Tokyo? So, I mean, you can tell Megu she cares about the trip. And she calls Shirase Antarctica, which, and she tries to ask how the trip is going. And then we get Kimari talking about her and explaining how their reports and everything going. And the moment that Megu says, well, she's pretty weird, huh? I was like, oh, you're being that jealous friend that's jealous of the relationship that they have. But Kimari doesn't get it at first. She's like, well, yeah, she is weird. She's super confident and super timid, swings in between both really rapidly. And then she's like, and then I talk about Hinata, and then that's when Megu's like, oh, is that the girl from your job? And she's like, yes. And Yuzuki-chan did the report perfectly. So Megu feels really left out because she's not a part of this new social circle. And you can understand why she would feel sad about that, because she's grown up being Kimari's really close friend for so long, and now she's not part of that friend circle. But the thing is, you had the opportunity to join, but you didn't want to. And now you're mad that Kimari doesn't need you anymore. She's found this new group of friends that aren't like you, and she probably feels like sad about it, guilty, upset, and jealous. And she says, well, don't push yourself too hard. If you fail, you'll just regret it all the more. And this part here where she says, sure, that's not at all what Megu wanted. Because Megu was used to her saying, oh, well, good point, you're right. And Huckleberry, I'm not throwing it, so go away. So, go lay down. But yeah, so before, when Megu would point out something and say, you should listen to me, I've got the good advice, Kimari would listen to her. But now, Kimari is just like, okay, well, I'll take that into consideration. And she doesn't rely upon Megu anymore. And that bothers her, because that's not the friendship that she's had with her, and so it's different. So like when she shuts the game off and hits the cord, that was very intentional. So yeah, she's getting all the packing slips ready, and Kimari's so nice, she doesn't notice anything by what Megu is doing. She doesn't think anything's off, and we get to see each of their rooms. I like that Kimari's room, all the plushes, all the books everywhere, all the different compartments for organization. Guys, be nice. And then I think Shirase's might be my favorite, because I love the nesting dolls, and I like the warm colors, the reds. I like the kind of burnt colors that are in Shirase's room. I think it might be my favorite. But then we finally get to see Hinata's room, and Hinata's is polar opposite of Shirase. There's like greens and tropical colors. The Statue of Liberty has an inner tube, which I love. Like, I don't know. Hinata's might be close to my favorite room as well, because it's so green and like tropical. And there's kind of like all these different elephants, and there's some like Hindu statues. Like, I kind of like Hinata's a lot. And she has like the old pair of shoes that she wears every day, which is cool. And then we cut to Yuzuki, who deletes the 2 fake friends out of her phone. Yuzuki's room is very minimalist. Very like light blue, minimal, tranquil, very simple. Which is interesting because she has such an extroverted personality as an influencer. So that's interesting. But yeah, they get all packed up, ready to go. And then, now, the moment Megu said that she was full of herself and the other students thought that, I was like, that's a lie, because I've seen anime where high school students have been jealous of other high school students, and if they thought she had a full head, they wouldn't have gotten her the flowers, and they wouldn't have come up to her and been talking to her like they were. They just wouldn't have. So I was like, yeah, no. Megu was just jealous because she was getting attention, and she didn't know how to respond. I think it's interesting that Megu, by the end of this episode, acknowledges how she is and realizes that what she was doing was wrong, and she thought that she wasn't deserving of being Kimari's friend because of it. Like, it's usually characters like that are kind of in denial of their own jealousy or bad toxic behaviors, but for Megu to acknowledge it and be self-aware and try to make a change from it is pretty admirable. I think that's pretty good. I wouldn't have expected her character to do that, so I'm glad that the show makes it take that twist. But yeah. And then they hang out afterwards in their usual spot. And she's like, I won't be seeing you for a while or seeing this place. So I didn't expect they'd throw a big deal and get me these flowers and do all this for me. She's like, everybody made fun of Shirase. And she's like, well, some people still make fun of her. And then she looks around and says, I won't be able to come here either, so I thought I would miss it more. I'm just not sure how I would feel about it. And so that's when Megu says, maybe it's best you don't show off so much. And Kimari is like, well, I'm not full of myself. I'm just leaving tomorrow. I don't have anything to show off yet. And that's when she kind of like, that's when she starts saying all the lies about the fake rumors and all of that. And Kimari's like, well, Kimari from the past, Kimari before she met Hinata and Shirase and the others and was allowed to flourish like she has, if she had been told this by Megu in the past, she probably would have like backed down and gotten scared. But she's been so inspired and changed by her friends that she's like, well, then we need to find out the source of these rumors. And it's not what Megu thought was going to happen, especially once they show up. Because as soon as Megu sees them, she's like, oh, I'm just going to peace out and just leave you with these negative thoughts. And Kimari now is not about that. And honestly, Shirase and Hinata were super nice to Megumi. Like, they didn't judge her or anything, which, you know, makes Megumi kind of look worse. So, yeah. And now, of course, Shirase is like, I'm going to find whoever spread these rumors and pummel them. So it's probably good that I don't think Kimari's going to tell Shirase that it was just Megumi. Otherwise, I would run Megumi. Shirase's kind of terrifying. But yeah, so they go hang out. I like that they pretend to like get drinks after work, like they're coming back from an office job. It's super cute. And then they decide to go do karaoke, which I love Hinata. Hinata is such a cool presence in this episode. I love her versatility because on the one hand, she's at the shrine calming down Shirase, who's freaking out about the rumors. She's like, let's chill. Nothing's going to change anything. We can't do anything about it. But then on the other hand, she's at the karaoke bar, just like freaking out and like having fun and getting like loud and raising the roof. It's great. I like her versatility and how complex of a person she is in this show. It's wonderful. But yeah, they convinced Shirase to do karaoke, and I love the madness of Shirase with the tambourine that they send to Yuzuki. And you see Megumi and Kimari shielding their ears. So it's from Hinata. And Yuzuki's like, I'm glad I wasn't there. Which again, Shirase, she can be really loud and abrasive, but in public, it's a different story. So yeah. And then they go home. And it's just Megumi and Kimari again. She's like, I never thought I'd get to do this stuff the night before I left. And then I am glad that Kimari acknowledges she hasn't been able to hang out with Megumi very much since she started this whole venture, because she hasn't gotten to hang out with her that much. And I think that's also made Megumi feel kind of, you know, angry about the whole situation. She's like, I'm sure it was a relief to you. She's like, I wouldn't say that. But maybe it was. And then Kimari, because when she said it was a relief, I was like, oh, why would she say that? But she says, you know, it wasn't like that for me at all. She's like, I've always had to rely upon you. And I hate that that's what it's done to me. Which goes back to the idea of pushing through and freeing herself. Like the moment she starts talking about, I was hating myself because I had to rely on you. I hated that I was stagnant and I wasn't going anywhere, but I didn't know how to fix that. And I was just kind of spinning in circles. And then I met Shirase and I figured out a way to free myself and I felt so good. So I'm sorry that I had to burden you with my presence. And the reality is, no, Megu was kind of keeping you stagnant. Megumi was kind of keeping you stagnant and didn't want you to leave the nest because it's like what made Kimari hate herself is what Megumi loved. And then she realizes how horrible it made Kimari feel. And that just makes her feel even worse, being like, well, then should we even be friends? Because our personalities are kind of toxic like this, like they are now. And she's like, I never knew I felt that way. I was always uncertain and needing you to fuss over me. And I always hated that. So I wouldn't just be clinging to you. I wouldn't be worthless this way. God, I love the way they address this because it's like, it kind of is a toxic friendship that gets addressed in this, where one person feels stagnated and feels like they're being a burden, but the other person's kind of feeding off of it and kind of likes it. And it's not good for either of them. And then they talk about it in this episode and resolve it. And it's just like, it's so well done. And it's just, I love the conversation and how it naturally unfolds in this last part here. Now, the food that she gets for her parents is amazing. Like the chicken that's fried, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. The juice, the soup, the bacon and eggs, like all of it's so good. That giant egg paradise, what is that? That looks amazing. I thought it was flan at first. That looks amazing. What is that? I want that. And then she gets the picture that says come and eat with like the omelet rice and the egg paradise. But I don't think she does. I don't think she comes and eats with her. Which it makes me sad because, again, it's like you had this moment to be with her and share this moment of friendship, but you felt so bad about what you'd done and you just didn't want to accept that Kimari has changed and she's broken free, that you denied yourself that chance of having that moment with her. And it's so sad. I was like, no. And so it's probably good that there is this break with Kimari going to Antarctica because it will give Megu a chance to reevaluate and then they can restart when she gets back, which is what needs to happen with their friendship. So I'm glad that's happening. And then, man, that feeling of getting up early. This scene here encapsulates so much that I love. The feeling of waking up and then you look around your house and you're like, okay, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be leaving for an amount of time. Like when I went to nationals, we were gone for 9 days. We were technically like 8 nights, 9 days. But I remember looking around the house being like, okay, I'm going to be leaving for a week and then I'm coming back and it's wild, right? So this kind of encapsulates that same exact feeling and it's so good. But she finds the right clothes to wear. She boops her little plush. She gets everything ready. And she's like, I'll see you all later. And I do the same thing when I leave my house. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back. Don't go crazy without me. And then, yeah. And the dad, I like the dad with the pillow and the teacup. When he sees her, he like starts crying like she's heading out. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, make sure you get breakfast in Tokyo. And I love the sister gives her a big old hug, saying, why didn't you wake me up? And they hug and the dad's like crying. And I mean, if I were her parents, I would be really concerned too. I'd be crying if my child was going away for 3 months to Antarctica. Like, that's crazy. But I love how supportive her parents are and they're just like okay with it. Oh my gosh, her dad's a big softie. I love him. And then when she turns, I love seeing Megu in the shadows. The way she's animated and the way she kind of looks like a villain, where she's like all hunched over. I was getting Puella Magi Madoka Magica vibes. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I love that she says, I'm breaking up with you. She's like, I'm saying we're not friends anymore. And that's when it all comes out. She's like, you should be mad at me. I spread the rumors. I told your mom the first time you met in Antarctica. How did the older girls know about the $1,000,000 yen? How'd your mother know? She's like, I told them all. I thought you'd finally catch on and be mad at me. But you're such morons you didn't catch on. And she's like, I don't know why I got so mad when you first told me that you were going. And as Kimari getting so sad in that moment, it's such a real, the conversation and the confession that Megu gives and her reaction to it is so real and genuine. It cut right to the core of me. I was like, damn, you always consulted with me before you did everything. And she's like, I've put you through so much. And then yesterday when you were talking, I finally realized that you weren't the one hanging on. I was. I about cried. This almost got me. When she said when she started crying saying she was the one hanging on, that almost got me. And I was almost like, I was real close to like breaking down because it was, the voice acting was so good. If you cried during the scene, I don't blame you at all. I almost cried. I think it's too hot out here for me to cry, but it's just, I almost did. You were relying on me, consulting with me, me getting exasperated and pretending to mother you and acting so smart around you. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have anything. I don't, it's been a long time since I've watched a show that has explained a toxic relationship so well and so realistic too, because in real life, it's not usually melodramatic like that. It's like this, where it's just their relations, but just, it's so open in this moment and so candid, and she finally gets to let everything out. Oh, and yet all of her like feelings are explained. You're not the one who is worthless. I am. I'm the one who needs to go somewhere that isn't here. And I felt so bad for her in that moment. Like, that made me want to cry. And then Kimari being like, well, then just go with me, which logistically they can't. They've already packed their stuff up and sent it off, so that's not going to work. But her being like, well, then come with me and leave here and go to Antarctica. And she's like, no. She's like, I'm going to take my first step into a world without you. But that's not what Kimari wants. Like, it's good that Megu has recognized how she's been acting, and I think that these 3 months, Megu needs that to reevaluate herself and moving forward what her and Kimari's relationship is going to be like. But I'm like, the fact that Kimari said breakup rejected, I was like, yes, that they don't need to not be friends anymore. They just need to reevaluate that friendship, and I think that this trip is going to let her do that. And I love the voiceover here. We're taking our first step into a world without any of the things we usually rely on. So we have that with Kimari and Megu. We have Shirase actually going out to face the confrontation with her mother's fate. We have to a world where we don't know what lies around the corner, which is what Hinata wants, where we don't know which way home is. To a world where we don't know where we'll be tomorrow, which is what kind of Yuzuki wants. She doesn't want that strict scheduling. I love that hug where she says breakup rejected. Ah! Oh, it's so good. That hug is so good. That hug, that moment where she says that, oh, it gets me. It gets me so good. That just, so satisfying. And then connecting that satisfying moment for us, the audience, with this part about Kimari that we didn't quite know until now, where she says water collects in stagnant pools. I loved watching it spill out at once, breaking free, liberated, and rushing out. The energy stored up during its stagnation bursts forth, and everything springs into action. Which is why I feel that Kimari was not mad at Megu overall, because she's like, this is kind of what I feel like Megu and Kimari's relationship would have eventually gotten to this point. Meeting Shirase just kind of exacerbated and fast forwarded that a little bit sooner than it could have been. But, and then she meets up with all of them at the airport. And at the very end, we have, like, Australia. I've watched Free with Toby Swim Club, so I know what Australia looks like. And then we have Sydney, and we have the little tapioca, where it's like the Danone ice cream. I'm assuming it's a famous brand there in Australia. Oh, man. It's so good. It's so good. I love the conversation with Megu. Because I've watched series with toxic friendships, and usually they're very melodramatic, and they're very over the top, and it's just a lot of crying. I mean, there's crying in this episode, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of Megu blaming. You know, if it could have been Megu blaming other people and saying, well, you're friends with them now, and but what I love about this episode is that that's not what happens. Megu doesn't blame her friends. She doesn't blame Kimari. She blames herself, because she knows that she's the one at the core of this that's the one upset. Because Kimari's not upset. Kimari still views Megu as a friend, and she's not upset. And she doesn't think Megu's been a bad person, but Megu knows that she has been, and Kimari just hasn't, held it against her. So it's like the guilt and everything ate up Megu until she couldn't stand it anymore. And then she just had to let it out. And it was done with such maturity and realism and authenticity that it just got right here, y'all. It got right to the core of me. This episode was amazing. This is my favorite episode so far. Hands down, my favorite episode so far. I love it. And I'm getting the appeal. I'm getting it now. I'm getting it. It's starting to hit. So, and we're not even halfway, right? We still got, I'm assuming next week is going to be about Sydney and boarding the ship and getting ready. And then we're going to be at the halfway point where we're headed off to Antarctica and all that. So, okay. I'm in. I'm all in. I've enjoyed this series so far, but like I said at the start of the discussion, it hadn't hit me of like, oh, this series is really, really good until this episode. And this episode, I'm like, oh, yep, the conversations, the reality, the feeling, like this show has found a way to tap into the feeling of a moment and to amplify it through the series and the animation that it just, I'm here. I'm in. So, White Raccoon did not have much on him this episode, but I wanted to bring him out just in case. Just in case. So, I'm excited for episode 6. I hope you all are as well. Please no spoilers, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, this has got me psyched for my trip, and I'm excited to be back very soon with episode 6 of A Place Further Than the Universe. And I'll see you all then. Bye!